Hi everyone, I'm super excited that I was selected to present this presentation to you guys about some more writing instructional strategies. It's something that I've done a lot of research into and I'm really excited to share with you guys. So first I want to start off by telling you guys who I am. My name is Jalen Davis and I am completing my master's course at Fort Hays State University for elementary education. And I'm really excited to go ahead and get started, so we're going to go ahead and begin. All right, so the first thing that we're going to talk about is how writing develops. So writing develops in 5 different stages, and it's going to start over here in the scribbling and drawing stage. This stage is whenever the students are taking a pencil or a crayon and they're just kind of exploring the empty space on the white piece of paper. Oftentimes we say that's scribbling or something like that, but really it's just them exploring pencil to paper or crayon to paper, and it is the first stage in developing their writing. So then we're going to go down to the pre-phonics stage. This is whenever they start to use real letters, but typically they're just capital letters and they are used to represent a meaning, but usually they're just a placeholder. It doesn't actually make a word yet. It doesn't say anything. Many children at this stage of writing, they are going to ask the adults what they have wrote, but usually it doesn't make any sense. So then they're going to move on to the early phonemic stage. In this stage, they're still using those capitalized letters, but they're typically consonants, and they're using these to represent words, but they're usually only using the sounds from the first of the word and the end of the word. They're not understanding the parts in the middle of the word, and that's probably because those words are not staying long enough in their minds, so they're not able to represent that, but they are at least getting the beginning and ending sounds of the word. They are kind of figuring out that letters are a representation of sounds at this point, but they just don't understand the middle of the word sounds. So then they're moving on to the letter naming stage. In this stage, children are using more than 1 or 2 consonants, and they're usually using at least 1 vowel to represent the spelling of words. Usually it's not going to be spelled right, but it's at least going to look more like English, and they're going to be trying to sound it out and trying to figure out how to spell that word. Then we're moving on to the transitional stage, and this stage, it is the final stage of the process. When a child reaches it, they can write what looks to be like English, but some of it is neglectful in how they're spelling things. There's going to be some different rules that we have in writing that are going to be left off. One example of this might be silent E's at the end of words. They may be left off, and then some double consonants are going to be neglected as well, just because they don't understand that quite yet, but that will be developed. Their stories tend to make sense when they're writing things out, but the spelling is just not super conventional. And then we're going to move on to the 6-trait writing model. So the 6-trait writing model was developed in 1983. An Oregon school district wanted to be able to assess student writing in order to provide a more effective instruction method for their students. So the school looked at all this research that was done by Paul Diedrich in 1974, where he wrote a book about measuring growth in English. In this book, they ranked several writing compositions by students with a small group of business people that were put together to rank them in 3 different categories. So the categories were effective, somewhat effective, and problematic. They also had to explain why they ranked them into that place and what was wrong with them and if they were ranked in problematic. So whenever he went through that process, he found that all of the team members described similar and very, very similar qualities in these essays that they thought should be in a paper. And these ended up being ideas and content, organizational structure, voice, and mechanics of writing. So the school district decided to reproduce that study, and they found very similar results to what the book said. The teachers' notes were then condensed into the 6-trait writing model, which I actually have here for you guys. To this day, Oregon actually still uses this model in assessing student writing, and a lot of other countries and schools have adopted this as well. So the first one we're going to go to is ideas and content. This trait looks at how well a writer has communicated and supported their main ideas. You want to make sure that they had supported their details, they supported their purpose of writing through examples and facts, and all of those important details that they needed in the paper. Whenever Oregon and all the other schools that adopted this scores it, they're going to make sure that the ideas are clear, they're focused, complete, and that they're well developed with specific details. So then the next model, or the next trait, is going to be organization. So organization looks at how well the flow is of the paper and the information that's in it. Is it in a clear sequence? Do they make connections? Is there transitions throughout your paper? Whenever they're scoring this, they're going to be looking at how the paper moves and if it moves naturally from one idea to another and it has a strong beginning and a strong ending. So then we're going to move on to voice, which is the third trait for this model. And voice is going to look at the expression of the words that they wrote in their paper and if it's connected to the style of the paper that they chose to begin with. They don't want to be jumping back and forth in their expressions and ideas because it's not going to flow nicely, it's not going to sound the same, and it's not going to be a well-written, effective paper. So in this stage, the reader is making sure that the paper has expression throughout it. We should not be having information and not being expressed. So that leads us to how it is being scored, which is making sure that the style is lively and interesting and it's appropriate to the audience and topic. Then it leads us to our fourth trait, which is word choice. So in this portion, the paper is examined to make sure that the writers used appropriate words for topic and audience. It's going to be scored by making sure that words are carefully selected for the topic and audience, and making sure that it has precise meaning and tone with the style, as we said before, with the voice. So we want to make sure that they're using the right words for the paper and that they're not choosing some word that doesn't make any sense for the paper. So then that leads us to our next trait, which is sentence fluency. The sentences for the paper really need to run smoothly together and transition nicely, and they need to be natural. The criteria in this trait for grading it is making sure that the sentences are smooth throughout the paper. So then we're going to go down to conventions. This trait is going to look at how well a writer understands the basics of the writing, such as spelling, grammar, punctuation, capitalization, and so much more. It's going to be graded on the correct spelling, grammar, usage, punctuation, capitalization, paragraphing, and make sure that it's consistent throughout the entire paper. So then there was a seventh trait added by the Northwest Regional Educational Laboratory, which is presentation. This looks at how well the paper looks in the finished form, and it's usually included with visuals and text elements. So if they publish it on a website, that is where they're going to look for this presentation piece. So then we're going to go into evidence-based teaching practices. So the first thing that we need to look at is that every single day we need to be providing time for students to write. Research about how much time we need to be giving students is very unclear, but writing is similar to anything else, where the more you do it, the better you get at it. So they need to be practicing it every single day. In most schools, writing is done nearly every day as a piece of their reading curriculum. You can also include writing activities and other core subjects to build upon their practice of this. The thing that we need to be doing is teaching our students to use the writing process for a variety of purposes. So we need to teach our students all the different steps of the writing process. That way they can be fully executed both inside and outside the classroom, making sure that they know that they need to be drafting, revising, editing, all of the different steps of that. Teaching students about the different forms of text and how they are structured can help them write for different purposes, such as poems are going to be different than a children's book, so they need to know the different styles of writing as well. We also need to be teaching spelling, grammar, and keyboarding. Teaching students how to spell correctly is super important. If we continue to let them spell words incorrectly over and over and over, they're more than likely going to continue doing that into their older years. So giving them feedback on all these things is something that they're going to need because they may not know that they're not doing it right. So we need to be giving feedback on spelling, grammar, handwriting, even to how they're holding their pencil, because that could impact how they're writing and what they're writing as well. So let's move on to the next one, create a community. We need to create an engaged community of writers. So I personally have learned that students learn the best when they have connections and conversations about the knowledge that they're learning. So it's super important for us as educators to make situations for them where they can get the feedback and give feedback through their writing process, that way they can improve their papers. By making your students send their draft to at least one peer, or making them send their draft to an adult that they trust, they're going to get a lot of feedback on how they're writing and what needs to be changed whenever they are editing. All right, let's move on. So, response to intervention. There's two main ways that response to intervention can be done with writing. One of them is quick writes. So, this is going to be using writing as a vehicle to get students to reflect on their prior knowledge over a specific topic. It's going to promote a reflection on any knowledge that they have from the past, specific information, summarizing, and how they express things. Another one is going to be poetry. And during this, they are going to be using the 3-step planning and self-monitoring strategy that stands for pick my idea, organize my notes and ideas, and write and say more. The tree stands for topic sentence, reasons using 3 or more, examine, and ending. This is going to help students be way more fluent and effective writers, and these things are going to come together to make a student make sure that they're checking off all of the boxes that they need to make a fluent, effective paper. And then some strategies that students need to be focusing on if they're struggling readers and writers is generous reading, interactive writing, drawing before writing, the fixed revising strategy, which just means focusing on essay elements, identifying problems, and executing those changes that need to be made. And then learning is noisy, death is silent. So we need to make sure that they're working with peers to provide feedback. They should never be working silently during this process. The 5th slide is about motivating and engaging. So some ways that we can motivate and engage are write talks, which are similar to book talks, but we ask adults to come in and share their experiences, and then students can compare and contrast what they have experienced with that. A school-wide photo library where they're able to take an image and try to write a piece or a book over it, and they get to share that and publish it. Author's chair, where they are going to be able to share their work with their classmates or their teachers. And celebrating writing achievements, which all children like to be praised for their work, but it can't be done too much because then it'll be over beneficial and they're not going to be motivated as much by that. A few ways that you can do that is by putting their writing in a special place in the classroom, or having parents come in to have them read their writing. So then the final thing I'm going to talk about today is the writing workshop. So there's 5 phases in that. The first phase is going to be about 5 to 10 minutes, and it's called teacher sharing time. This is going to be done by a teacher introducing texts that have been written by the teacher. So the goal is to inspire the kids to find new enticing adventures whenever they are writing. The second phase is called mini lessons, and that's going to be done for 5 to 10 minutes. This is going to be done in a class discussion. They're going to try to brainstorm and select good things to write about, how they're going to gather references, and conducting interviews, and so much more. The third phase is going to be the state of the class. The teacher is going to write all the students' names on one side of the board, and on the other side, the student's going to write where they are going to be during the workshop activities, such as revising, editing, things of that nature. The majority of the time is going to be taken up with the workshop activities, which is going to be 30 minutes, and they're going to be doing whatever they said they're going to be doing during the state of the class portion. And the 5th and final phase is going to be student sharing time, where if they have been approved by the teacher and their editing is complete, they're going to get to share their story with their class and publish their stories into their final finished piece. So thank you guys so much for coming today. I really appreciate it, and I hope that you have learned something. If you have any questions, we can talk after this. Thank you.